Welcome to the Gold Coast Smart Real Estate Podcast. I'm Brad Scott, here to help you make smart moves in the Gold Coast property market. Whether you're thinking of buying, selling, or just staying updated, we deep dive into everything you need to know, from our market insights to our unique open offers method of sale, a blend of auction and private treaty to give you the best of both worlds. Let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gold Coast Smart Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bell, and today I'm joined by Brad Scott, Principal of Smart Real Estate and a trusted expert in the Gold Coast property market. Brad, thanks for joining us once again.
Thanks, Adam. Great to be here.
Awesome. All right, now today's episode is all about helping buyers navigate what can often be an overwhelming process of, well, they've got to go to inspections, then, how to make an offer, negotiations, a lot to it. So, look, whether you're a first-time buyer or even a seasoned investor, this episode is going to give you some tips, tools, insights, tricks, and everything else you need to know to approach this process with confidence. So, look, let's start with, talking about first home buyers. They probably haven't done this before. They've spoken to their mortgage broker, probably know roughly what they've got to work with. They start looking at listings on the internet and they turn up for their first open home. So what advice are you going to give them? Because it would be daunting.
For a first home buyer, obviously, first thing is, speak to their broker, make sure they get their finances in order first. That's really crucial so they know how much they got to play with or go shopping with, as we used to say in banking. That's really crucial. Get your pre-approval in place. That's crucial. Make sure when you're, as a buyer, when you're submitting an offer, make sure you definitely have, ideally, a pest and building inspection clause in there to protect you as a buyer. And also the finance clause, obviously, if you've got your finance there.
So you turn up to an inspection, you like the place, you're a first-time buyer. How do you make an offer? Let's break it right back down. I mean, you're there, you're showing them through. They have the quiet little discussion in the corner, or even think, I'll come back in it. How do they make an offer? How do they physically do it?
So there's a few different, it's going to come down to that agent that you're going to inspect with and what method of sale they're using. So different processes have different ways of submitting offers. With the auction process, probably not ideal for a first home buyer. When you're bidding under auction terms, you have to be cash unconditional. So that means no person building, no finance. You need a full 10% deposit generally, and you need to settle in 30 days. So that may not work for the first home buyers who sometimes are a little bit more cautious as you go into your first purchase. Then you've got private treaty. So generally with private treaty, you'll have a price on it. And you just essentially, if you like the property and you want to place an offer, make yourself known to the agent, and he'll usually give you some sort of expression of interest form or an initial offer document, something like to that effect. And that will allow them. Sometimes they'll do a bit of negotiation between the parties. Sometimes it's a little bit less formal. Sometimes they'll do a full contract offer, which has a little bit more weight when you're going to see a seller. And sometimes with private treaty, there's sometimes a bit of back and forth. It can be a bit of unknown, a bit more stressful from a buyer's perspective. And sometimes under private treaty, you have multiple offers. So that's where there's two or more offers. And the agent has a legal responsibility to notify and tell each of the parties that there is multiple offers. And under that process, as a buyer, unfortunately, you only get one opportunity to put in your best and final offer blind.
That makes it hard, doesn't it?
It does, and there's a lot of unknown. And I guess as agents too, like for me personally, and we've done lots of multiple offers, it's great for the sellers because they'll generally get a little bit higher price. The downside I find with that process is it's flexible because it gives the buyer the opportunity to have person building and finance terms, which they can't with auction. The downside is sometimes, I used to say to buyers, we're under multiple offer. You get one opportunity, put in your best and final, and at the end of it, you'll either get a yes, you've been accepted, or a no, sorry, you missed out. Inevitably, what generally will happen is, buyers don't necessarily always tell me their true maximum. and they want to buy the house, but they don't want to overpay at the same time. They don't want to go crazy.
This is the bit that makes it so hard.
Yeah, look, I've been through it as a buyer with auction and with private treaty. So with the auction process, personally, I found it easier as a buyer because I had less competition. There was only me and one other guy who were cash unconditional. Under private treaty, I bought another property and we were competing with 5 different buyers, and I made an offer. I really wanted the house, and being in real estate, I put my best foot forward. I put an offer in that I thought was probably, well, at the start, the first offer was like 100,000 more than what I thought it was worth, because I wanted to secure it. And then I talked to the wife and I said, look, do we really want it? And we're like, sort of like we liked it, but it wasn't our dream home. And it was a competitive market. So I said, look, let's go 150 extra. And then I said to the agent who I knew, got along well with, and I said, Steve, we'll go 150. Let's just get this done. And unfortunately, I had buyer's remorse that night, and I felt sick in the stomach. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? Like I got emotional, and I wanted to withdraw the offer, but the offer was in. I thought, bugger it, let's just, let's see what happens. And so Steve called me up the next day, and I saw his number, and I said, oh, hey Steve, I got the property, didn't I? And he said, you actually missed out. I was like, wow, really?
Wow.
Which in that scenario was actually a relief, because I thought I'd paid way overs for the property, and I still didn't secure it.
Wow.
So in my mind, I was like, yeah, it was different from a buying perspective when you're, because obviously as an agent, we deal with buyers and sellers all the time, but going through it was definitely a different experience. So, and then lastly, the third option, the one I sort of prefer, is obviously open offers, which is kind of like an online private treaty process where buyers have the flexibility of having finance clauses in pest and buildings. They can be cash unconditional like an auction if they want to, and you don't have to put in your best and final blind. So if we disclose what another person's best and final offer is, well, that's called gazumping. It's illegal, and we obviously don't want to. It would be unfair to another party if we disclose what their best and final was. So with open offers, people can start low. You might start at X. The offers start rolling in. As the offers come in, it's all open and transparent. You can see what those offers are. And the beauty is we'll update the price so the market has an indication of where the offers are at. Not necessarily saying we're going to sell it for that, but at the same time, we don't want buyers who have got a budget less than that current offer amount to come and inspect it and waste their time. So,
look, you introduced me to this when we first started talking, as we were planning to put this podcast together. And mate, I told you then, and I'll tell you again now, I can't understand why all properties aren't sold this way. It is by far and away, just, from a lay person, the best, fairest, and just most common sense way to sell a property. The buyer knows what's going on. The seller knows what's going on. You're getting all of the potential buyers, getting a fair crack at it. If you go with auction, you're probably only getting 5 or 10% of the market, aren't you? The buyers that are there because, it's not easy to have a cash unconditional.
No.
I mean, it just keeps coming up in episode after episode, and such a fantastic thing that you are able to offer. But, mate, I'm blown away that this just isn't the standard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there are about 4,000 agents across Australia that have sort of done the training that involves doing that process. So you need different licenses, and to be an auctioneer, you need an auctioneer's license, and so you need a real estate license to be a real estate agent. And to do open, you have to do some more training and qualifications. So there are a lot of agents that do use it. On the Gold Coast, it's not as common, which is great for us because it gives us a unique selling advantage
for sure
for when people are wanting to sell. But also, when I'm actually kind of proud of it, you know.
I can understand why.
Yeah, there's so much like BS and
this takes
crap
all that
in real estate.
crap
It's
out
just
of it. It's smoke and mirrors. I call it smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of I've got a question here that that says, and we're talking about helping buyers, that come along to and what the process is. And I've got a question here that says, how do you know what to offer? And we're talking private treaty here. And and your answer's going to be, well, you don't,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's it. So I mean,
You
and
have
again,
your best guess.
yeah, and like for us as agents, like, and I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now, and we used to love doing multiple offers, and we'd get great results. But the big kick in the guts for me was the person I called second. The person who won obviously is very happy. Thanks, Brad. Opened the champagne. They got the house.
Yep.
The seller's happy. They got a great result. The downside was always calling the number two. The number two buyer say, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Adam, how you going?" And they're like, "How'd we go, Brad?"
Yep.
And I say, "Unfortunately, you just missed out."
Yep.
They're like, bugger.
We had another 10K
Yeah.
in the back pocket. We just didn't want to actually pay that unless we have to.
Well,
But
sometimes
they didn't know they had to.
Yeah,
this is what I
sometimes
get it.
like
I get it.
we would be sort of like, I'd say, well, they'd always say, well, what did it go for? And I'm like, well, 10 grand more. But I did ask you the question, was this your absolute best and final? And you said yes, it was. And then people would be like swearing and say, "Oh, you bloody real estate agents," and it's like, well, we asked you the question,
And you're only following the process as you have to.
Yeah, legally, that's the way it has to be done.
But for those who haven't listened to your full episode on open offers, picture this. You go, you find the house you want, you then just look at your computer and you see what's going on.
Yeah.
Someone bids, the price goes in,
Yep.
you can just keep going. And yet there is a cut-off time.
Yep. So it tells you exactly when we finish.
Yep.
Similar to like an auction, they have a deadline or a date that's going to finish. So everyone sort of knows exactly. People sometimes go, "Oh, Brad, will it sell tomorrow?" I was like, "No, it tells you when we're finishing. So you've got time. Come along and have a look at it." We want the buyers to be happy and comfortable. Also, too, we're not going to do any side private deals between friends or family or anything like that.
Yep.
I have friends and family who want to buy off me. I say, look, you have to place your offer on the open platform, same as everybody else. Everyone has the same equal, fair, transparent opportunity to secure the property.
I absolutely love it because I do have more questions here that most commonly relate to private treaty, but it's just riddled with what I keep calling smoke and mirrors. I mean, I've got a question here: are buyers allowed to, let's talk private treaty for a minute.
Sure.
Are they allowed to ask you, what should I offer? Are they, there are people who don't know this, and this is the smoke and mirrors. And what do you do when they say, "What should I offer, Brad"?
Yeah, well,
can they say what's going to get it, and what are you allowed to say?
Yeah, so and again for agents, that's a really hard conversation to have because
I get it.
Sometimes like the owner might want 900,000, right? Sometimes sellers' expectations are a little bit too high, which is quite common. Sometimes they're realistic, but again, depending on the property and how many other buyers are there, it might sell for 50,000 below. It might sell for 50,000 more.
Yeah.
And as an agent, it's like, well, everybody says to me, Brad, like, what's the price?
Yeah. This is what I mean. What? Yeah.
And the
how
thing
much is it?
We don't know.
No.
And that's the biggest thing.
With open offers, you do.
With open offers, it's very clear, and there's no BS, and it won't be at the maximum price, but it's also good, I guess. I say every property will find its level.
Yep.
And I say to buyers, I say, look, at the end of the day, the current offer is X. If you see value above that, place your offer here. You might have a budget of here.
Yep.
You may, it might go for 50,000 less than that, and you save that 50,000.
Yep.
If it goes for more than your budget or what you think it's worth, well, you let it go and you move on to the next opportunity. But you're in control as a buyer to increase your offer. And where you've got multiple offers, I have buyers every Saturday. They're like, like especially the husbands. The husbands are getting dragged around by the wives generally, and they're not interested. They're just like, I'm just so over this. And when you get to a point where the wife's over it, they're really over it. They're sort of like, I'm sort of like, oh, how long you guys been looking for? Oh, how long have we been looking? 6 months, Brad.
Yep.
I'm like, 6 months? And like, have you made any offers? Oh, we've missed out on 3 properties. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, why do you think that is? And they say, oh, I'm like, sometimes it's, they're too hard on the negotiation process.
Yep.
And they miss out on great properties. So that's a bit of a key taking away from a buyer's perspective.
Yep.
But also too, sometimes they start hard at the start, and then they're like, okay, we're not going to miss the next one, so they will offer a little bit higher and try and secure it, and they still miss out. And then sometimes on the third one, they're offering like a really high price. They're like, no, let's just get it, and they're still missing out. And I say to them, well, just out of curiosity, like, where did you come? And they're like, we were second. And I'm like, quick question. If you'd known what the other buyer had paid, would you have paid more?
And quite often,
it's always yes.
Always yes.
Always yes. So, and I say, well, why didn't you? And they say, well, we weren't sure. We didn't want to overpay Brad. We thought that was 50 grand over what it was worth, and we still missed out. So that's the great thing with open offers is that, I say, well, look, with our system, you can put that offer in, you can see what the other person's at, and then if you want to go another 5, you can. And they say, we love it.
Just makes
sense.
I just keep coming back to I don't know why this isn't done for it.
It should.
I think it would work for buyer, seller, everyone.
Yeah.
Can you name a scenario where it wouldn't beat the other two hands down every time?
Well, I say to buyers and sellers, I say, look, if we were back in 1980 and I said to you, hey, look, a few 20, 30 years away, we won't have cash in our pockets. We won't even have credit cards. So, now I'm making purchases with my watch. I just tap and go. Actually, I've got a car I don't even have a key for now. It's all done with the watch and the phone. So I jump in, away I go. And, if you said to me 20 years ago how this process works and how you'd be making these offers online, it would be all open, transparent, people wouldn't believe you. But because we've just stuck to the two same old methods that's been around for 100 years, which both have flaws. There's no perfect system. And I think the guys that created open, they tried to sort of bridge that gap and make it fairer, make it more transparent, cut out all the BS with agents. And we love it. And we can just be more, I guess, honest with people. And I say, look, I don't know what it's going to sell for, but you're in control, Mr. Buyer. Like, you can, if you want to go another 5, you can. Like I said before, if it goes a bit higher, well, then just let it go. But also, I say to buyers, look, they say, Brad, what does the owner want? I say, well, look, it doesn't really matter what the owner wants, does it? Because, they might want $1 million, right? Now, through this process, it might only get to 900. Now, if I've got 30 offers there on the table, and it's gone from 800 to 900, and they want $1 million, it's like, well, you can't really argue with that.
You've really tested the market properly.
I've got you
without smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, and
without
it's like
someone not knowing what they're meant to offer.
And I think for buyers too, they get frustrated with. I think on another episode we were talking about where an agent told a seller a certain price and maybe bought the listing, priced it too high. And those buyers that went and saw that property, they're just completely wasting their time because there's just this difference of what the seller wants and expects based on what that agent told them and where the market's at.
It's an opinion, isn't it? It's
like,
asks you what it's worth. It just starts as an opinion.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I say, well, this system will really bridge that gap and bring buyers and sellers together. And sellers, buyers don't want to pay too much. They want the opportunity to increase their offer, and sellers want to know they've got the maximum from the marketplace.
And this does it.
And this system will get them the maximum, and they can see it over that 2 weeks. It's great communication. And for the buyer, they know exactly where they stand 24/7. So it's great. I love it. And I think when you explain to people, if they get it, they love it, and they're an advocate for life. And the people that don't get it, they criticize.
That's me, and I haven't even gone in and bought or sold with it yet. But just knowing how it works, when I do, you can shove private treaty where the sun don't shine. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Mate, seriously, look, we have run out of time. This episode didn't go in the direction I thought it would, but look, that's the way this works. And when we do start talking about open offers, there is so much to talk about and get excited about. So, look, if you are out there thinking of buying or selling, talk to Brad and his team. They are qualified and able to do open offers. If you've listened to this and you've gotten it, you've got to realise that this is an easier way whether you're buying or selling.
It's a win-win.
Using this, it's a win-win. So jump online, have a look at the Smart Real Estate website, which is www.smartrealestate.com.au to reach out and directly get in touch with Brad for his personalised advice. Look, thank you for tuning in, and look, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty. Every week we're here talking about another Gold Coast property-related topic. We'll cover them all, and if there's anything you want to know, jump on and tell us. But give us a like, give us a review. Love to hear what you're thinking, and look, until next time, keep making smart real estate decisions. Did you like that?
That was a good one.
Very good.
Right.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Adam. See you, mate. Thanks for tuning into this Gold Coast Smart Real Estate podcast. Remember, if you're thinking of selling, be smart. Explore your options and consider the power of open offers method of sale to maximise your result. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found today's insights helpful, feel free to share with a friend. Until next time, happy house hunting.